What is going on, guys? Jack here, and I am back, and I am bringing you my first FM16 video. Now, this video is coming out prior to FM16 releasing. That's because it's not going to be kind of a let's play or anything showing FM16. Instead, today I'm going to be running down 5 possible teams you should consider managing for this year's Football Manager. Now, if this is the first video you're watching here on my channel, FM16 is upon us, or nearly upon us, so you're probably kind of looking for that FM content. Welcome to my channel. For you guys who have been at my channel a long time, sorry there's not been videos in a very long time. I've needed a long rest. I've been starting a new job and all sorts. But this is part, and I guess the start, of me ramping up for this year's Football Manager content, which I aim to bring you guys daily from release. So in the weeks leading up to the game, I'm going to be doing a number of videos like this, stuff like, I guess in this video, top 5 teams you might want to manage, stuff like new Wonder Kids coming up, maybe stuff like top 5 players that deserve to be improved and upgraded in FM16 compared to FM15. If you've got any ideas for videos like that, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. If you're new here, subscribe, and let's get into this countdown. So the first team that you should consider managing in FM16 is Sevilla. Now, these teams are in no particular order. I tried to pick out some saves which I think will be pretty interesting for you guys to try out, but also that are kind of all slightly different, so I'm not kind of suggesting you do 5 newly promoted teams. So Sevilla are a club that, of course, last year had some great success. We are in FM15 with the LFC Marshall update to cover this, and they, of course, won the Europa League last season. As a result, this year, they are in the Champions League, and this is an exciting challenge because Sevilla, not the biggest team in Spain, so not only are you going to have the kind of domestic challenge, I guess, long-term of overthrowing Barcelona and Real Madrid, but you also get that immediate challenge of getting to play in the Champions League, and also playing against Barcelona in the Europa kind of Super Cup, or the UEFA Super Cup as I believe it's called. So this is a save that will provide you with a challenge from the off. In terms of Sevilla's squad, it's a fairly strong squad with a lot of players who have been there a while. They've also recently added players such as I can't say his name. The Ukrainian guy Liverpool almost signed. I say this as a Liverpool fan. He was released, I believe, and Sevilla picked him up. I think it's Kopelanka. I tried. I apologise to my Ukrainian brethren possibly watching this video. They also have players like Immobile, who they've got on loan, of course, from Dortmund, who in themselves are an interesting save, but on this year's kind of save. And of course, they've got players like Llorente, Iborra, who's an incredible defensive midfielder, and even Steven Nzonzi. So Sevilla, an interesting challenge. Certainly don't have the strongest squad, so it'll be a challenge in Europe for the first year, but that long-term goal of kind of, I guess, domestically overthrowing Barcelona and Real Madrid is certainly something to strive for. The second team in my countdown of the top 5 teams you should manage in FM16 is Bournemouth. Now, this one isn't going to come as much as a surprise. They have a fantastic challenge, Bournemouth, because you have a fairly small stadium in Dean Court that only hosts and has a capacity of 12,000 seaters. You also have the issue whereby 2 of your big players in the form of, let's find them to show you, Max Gradel, who we have here, who of course Bournemouth signed fairly recently, but also Tyrone Mings, are both injured long term, so you have both those injuries to contend with in FM16. The team themselves are a newly promoted team that of course have a pretty renowned history, I feel, at this point. If you follow the Premier League, you've probably heard all about it, but of course they survived staying in the Football League back in 2009, and well, 6 or 7 years later, they are now in the Premier League under the guidance of Eddie Howe. This team provides you with a chance to take over the reins of Eddie and see if you can keep them up in the Premier League. If you're someone who doesn't like to start in the lower leagues, or perhaps your first save in FM, you don't like to kind of do too longer, I guess, a long-term save, Bournemouth might be a team for you. They're certainly going to be a challenging team because of the fact they are a small team in the Premier League. They don't have the money of the powerhouses, but if you can get them, I guess, into a stable Premier League team, they have a really nice platform to build off, and certainly will be a rewarding team for you to manage. So the third team in my countdown of FM16 teams that you should consider managing is FC United of Manchester. I have a bit of an affinity with this team. Of course, I did a save with them in FM13 when they weren't in the Vanarama North, but last season they got promoted into the Vanarama North, which I believe isn't called the Vanarama North. I'm not actually sure what it's called these days. It feels like those lower leagues in England kind of change name every other season. But they're a team that are kind of on the up. The fact that they've been promoted and are now playable in FM is incredible. The other nice thing about FC United is the fact they have such a fantastic fan base, but also a brand new stadium as of this season, meaning that you have around, I believe it's just shy of 5,000 seater stadium for a non-league team, which is absolutely fantastic. A fairly solid fan base as well, which provides for decent revenue streams and should help you get some fairly solid financial investment and hopefully funds to strengthen the squad for a non-league team in England. They're a fun save. Their players are half decent, some of them, at least in FM15. But they're certainly going to need some vast improvement if you want to take them into the English Football League and perhaps beyond. So again, fantastic club, good fan base, good new stadium, potentially lots of money, particularly if you can start getting, I guess, people through the turnstiles. And if you're looking for that non-league Football Manager save, this might be the kind of save for you. So for number 4 in my countdown of the top 5 FM16 teams you should manage, and this one may come as a shock, I actually have 2 teams. I'm cheating. The 2 teams that I suggest you try out here are New York City FC and Orlando City FC. I think they're both City. We'll find out in a second. But New York City FC here, of course, a team in MLS. If you've never managed in MLS in the United States, note the fact I'm not saying the MLS, that's because it doesn't have a the in front of it. It's a fun challenge. It's very different. It's something that I tried towards the end of FM14, I think it was. The league itself has some very unique rules that distinguish itself from other leagues. So if you kind of get towards, I guess, the end of FM16 or going into FM16, you want a very different challenge, this might be the one for you. These 2 teams, because they're new teams as franchises into MLS, have what's called the expansion draft, which allows you to build a squad made up of, I guess, fragments and kind of outsiders from other MLS teams that you can pull into your own team and build a squad out of, which can make for a quite interesting challenge. Now, both of these teams were in FM15, however, to play as them, you had to play for like a year without actually playing any matches, which wasn't particularly fun. So this year, they're actually a team worth doing. New York City FC, of course, have 3 designated players. They are Pirlo, Villa and Lampard. Besides them, somewhat lacking. You're going to have to certainly add a few players. I'm not sure how up to date the kind of databases are going to be for these teams, or if the expansion draft is definitely going to be included in FM16. But either way, both these teams provide a fun challenge for you to, I guess, build the history of a team from scratch that's never kind of had a manager before you. So New York City FC are probably the easier of the 2 teams, but Orlando City have their own challenge. Of course, they play in Orlando, Florida, and they only really have one big player in the form of Kaká. So you've got a few designated player spots to bring in perhaps some more all-stars to help bolster your lineup. All in all, though, both these teams provide a fun, different challenge. MLS certainly as a league is either you love it or you hate it. It's a bit like Marmite, but if you've never tried it, it's certainly worth a go, and the rules aren't nearly as, I guess, confusing as they perhaps are at first glance. So for my number 5 and kind of my final, I guess, team in this countdown, again, I've kind of cheated here. It's not 2 teams this time. It is instead the Creator Club mode. So in FM 2016, you're now going to have the ability to overwrite a club that exists in any league you want. That's playable. You're then going to be able to add your own players or edit the existing players at a club and make your own team from fresh. So if you want a very different challenge and you've never done this kind of thing before, because I know for some people the Football Manager editor can be pretty daunting, this is a perfect opportunity to give it a go. Of course, the beauty of this is that you can choose what league your team starts in. So if you prefer the lower league saves, you've got that option to put your team right down there. If you want to have a team where you're developing lots of young players, you can set your club's facilities to be really high, but put yourself low down in the league so you're relying on those younger players. Or if you're the kind of person who just wants to stomp the league, you can just stick yourself in the Premier League, give yourself a load of money and build the team of your dreams. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this countdown of my top 5 FM 2016 teams to manage. As I mentioned at the start, this is going to be the start of me ramping up my content in anticipation of FM 16. There's going to not be daily videos, but I want to try and get one up at least every week. If you've got any suggestions for a team or video that you'd like to see me do or cover, let me know down in the comments. As I mentioned at the start, I'm going to be looking to do lots of these pre-FM 16 videos. Also, a quick apology for the fact that this commentary, I know it's been rough. It's been a long time since I sat in front of my microphone and just talked to you guys. Hopefully you bear with me through this video. Hopefully this gives me a chance to warm up, I guess, in anticipation of FM16. As I mentioned at the start, if you enjoyed the video, smash the like button. If you're new to my channel, subscribe. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.